There's several key factors responsible for the development of healthy soil, all of which I've been implementing in this no-till planting space for the past 3 seasons. This is very representative of what the soil looked like 3 years ago. It was very hard, it was dry, and very compacted. Today it looks a good deal different. One of the best ways to build your soil is just to follow the template laid out by nature. The first and foremost thing that I try to always do is keep the soil covered. Keeping the soil covered has a number of benefits. It not only regulates the soil temperature, making it more inhabitable for soil life, but it also reduces erosion and it helps to retain moisture, keeping a living root in the soil for as long as possible. That does a couple of different things. It helps with soil stability by the roots holding the soil in place, but it also helps to whatever biomass is growing, it's going to help provide that cover to the soil, but more importantly is the communication that is taking place between the plant and the microbiology in the soil. The plant is exuding root exudates in an effort to attract specific microbes that have fed upon the nutrient that that plant needs, providing as much diversity as I can, because again, nothing in nature grows by itself. There's an entire plethora of different species out in nature, and that's what we try to replicate when we're building soil. What that does is it provides a diverse menu for not only the microbiology, but also all of those beneficials that we're trying to attract. The last time that I cover cropped in this space, I selected a multi-species cover crop. It was a 10-seed mix, and that's going to help provide that diversity. Let me point out what nature's trying to tell us as it relates to covering the soil, keeping a living root in the soil at all times, and diversity. Here's an example of the job that I'm doing here, or lack thereof, of keeping the soil covered, because nature is doing it all on its own. And what you'll find upon closer inspection is that there's a number of different species growing in here. Here's some lamb's quarters right here. This is heliotrope. We've got some crabgrass. Oh, there's some spotted spurge over here. And different types of weeds that are starting to occupy this space, all in an effort to cover the soil, to keep a living root in. And of course, it's diverse. Another really important aspect of building your soil is the return of fertility. And one of the most obvious examples of that is just step foot into a healthy forest. What you'll find is that as all of that biomass continues to fall to the earth, it's providing that fertility in the form of a very biologically active soil amendment. Another key in building your soil, and it's really just taking another page out of nature's playbook, is to minimize soil disturbance. Sure, you can use mechanical means, but what you're doing is you're disrupting the network that nature has been trying to build. One such network is mycorrhizal fungi, which is essentially just root fungus. Mycos meaning fungus, and rhiza meaning root. That network of fungus branches out into what's called fungal hyphae, which are the individual strands and filaments. And in turn, what they produce is called glomalin, which is a sticky substance which helps in the aggregation of soil. So what I can see when I bring my hand down in here is turn this top layer over, and what you'll note is all this white stuff here is the mycelium, and all those individual filaments are the fungal hyphae. And that's what's responsible for helping to create this aggregated soil. Soil without aggregation is just sand, silt, and clay. And this helps to bind all of those particles together, and you wind up with something that resembles, in a healthy system, it resembles brown cottage cheese. And whenever you take a mechanical device to this, you're breaking that up and you're destroying that network that nature's trying to build. When we keep the soil in a condition where life wants to be there, this is what we find pretty readily. But when you're not finding worms, you're not going to find that microbiology either. And so one important thing that I didn't mention is that we need to keep this in a state that's moist, and that happens due to providing that cover. It happens due to providing, as I've done in this case, by watering manually. And what that will allow me to do is to work this soil with a tool like this. This is a 12-inch broad fork made by a company called Meadow Creature. And what I do with this is I just loosen in 1-foot blocks, which again helps to decompact the soil. It allows water to infiltrate down a little bit deeper, and it provides aeration or oxygen to the soil, which again is a process of building this space. It's not going to happen overnight. This has been a process that's been undertaken for now going on its 3rd season, and it will continue to improve as I bring in more amendments, which is what we're going to do today. Even though all the weeds in this space provide that cover to the soil, the living root, plus the diversity, they need to be removed because they are in direct competition with onions and garlic. Onions and garlic are very shallow rooted, but they're also heavy feeders. So before I bring in my amendment and my mulch, I need to get these weeds taken care of. I'm going to grab some mulch from the chicken yard that is probably 7 to 8 months old. Now this can be sifted and it will be some of the finest compost that money can't buy, or I can just leave it in its most raw form and it's essentially a supercharged mulch. The return of all of this carbon, this fertility, is a super important part of the process and one not to be overlooked. It's the food source for all of this microbiology and soil life and the fungal networks that we're trying to develop. And again, without them, all we're going to be left with is particles of sand, silt, and clay. A lot of wood chips, a lot of biochar, a lot of worms. I've managed to get about 2 to 3 inches of this mulch over the top of the onions and garlic, and in between the rows I've put down a layer of wood chips, which is going to help to reestablish that cover to the soil. Please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for any future updates to this no-till space.